let's talk about one of the biggest, most persistent puzzles in all of economics. Why do we have unemployment? For the longest time, the official answer was, well, not very satisfying. But then, a truly revolutionary theory came along and changed everything. I mean, this is the paradox at the heart of it all, right? You've seen it. You turn on the news and you hear about labor shortages, businesses are desperate for workers, there are help wanted signs in every window. And yet, at the very same time, you know that millions of smart, capable people are out there looking for a job. So how can both of those things be true at once? It feels like it just shouldn't work that way. To really get why the new idea was such a breakthrough, we have to go back and look at the old way of thinking. For decades, the main economic theory about jobs was, it was elegant, it was neat, and it was just totally wrong. Yeah. See, the classical model was beautiful in its own way. It pictured the labor market like this giant, super efficient auction. If you had more workers than jobs, poof, wages would instantly drop until every single person who wanted a job could get one. If you had more jobs than workers, poof, wages would shoot up. Everything was always perfectly in balance. And this is exactly where that beautiful theory just smacks right into a wall of reality. I mean, think about it. Wages don't change every minute of every day. And companies absolutely have job openings at the same time people are looking for work. That's the whole paradox we started with. But the wildest part of the old model was this idea that any unemployment was basically a voluntary choice. It had no way to explain the real, frustrating, time-consuming process of actually finding a job. Okay, so the old model was broken. Everybody knew it. A new idea was desperately needed to actually explain the world we live in. And that new idea didn't come from making things more complicated. It came from admitting a simple, powerful, and totally universal truth. The world has friction. And one of the key architects of this whole revolution was this man, Dale Mortensen. In 2010, he, along with his colleagues Peter Diamond and Christopher Pissarradis, won the Nobel Prize for basically reshaping how we see markets, all by putting this one concept of search frictions right at the very center of the story. This statement, this was the earthquake. With this one simple, powerful sentence, Mortensen and his colleagues just shattered decades of economic thinking. They were basically saying, hey, everybody, we need to stop pretending the labor market is some perfect instant auction and start seeing it for what it is, a messy, decentralized, and time-consuming search. So what in the world are search frictions? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. It's all the real-world stuff that gums up the works of a perfect deal. It's the hours you spend scrolling on LinkedIn and polishing your resume. It's the money a company has to spend to post a job ad and interview a dozen people. It's the simple, obvious fact that finding the right match, whether it's for a job, a house, or heck, even a partner, it doesn't just happen. It takes work. And from that one powerful insight, a whole new model of the economy was born. It gave us a brand new blueprint for understanding how labor markets actually work, with all their real-world messiness included. It's called the Diamond-Mortensen-Pissarradis model, or just DMP for short, and today it is the absolute gold standard. It's the tool that economists and policymakers use to figure out everything from why unemployment is high to what might happen if the government changes a policy. So how does this model paint a more realistic picture? Well, the DMP model breaks it all down. First, workers, they have to actually go out and look for jobs. Second, companies have to spend real money to post those jobs. Third, and this is so important, getting a worker matched to a job isn't instant. And finally, when a match happens, the wage isn't just set by some invisible hand. Nope. The worker and the company actually bargain over it. They're figuring out how to split the extra value, the match surplus, that they create by working together. So get this. In the DMP world, a little bit of unemployment isn't a sign that the market is broken. It's actually a natural, expected result of this whole search process. The level of unemployment we see is really determined by these real-world forces. How much does it cost to find a job or an employee? Who has the upper hand in negotiations? How often do people lose or leave their jobs? And of course, what's going on in the wider economy? But this is way more than just a clever theory for economists to talk about. This new way of thinking gives us a practical toolkit for figuring out how real-world policies are going to affect all of our lives. Before the DNP model, trying to predict how a new law might affect jobs was kind of like guesswork. But this framework, it gives policymakers a real way to connect the dots between a policy change and the things we actually care about, like the unemployment rate, how long people stay jobless, and how many jobs are being created. Let's just take a couple of quick examples. Unemployment benefits. The model shows us there's a trade-off. More generous benefits give people a vital safety net for sure, but they might also allow people to be a little more selective and search longer for just the right job, which could nudge the unemployment rate up a bit. Or what about hiring subsidies? The model helps us see exactly how giving a company a bonus to hire someone might encourage them to create more positions. It's all about thinking through those complex ripple effects. And this is what really shows you how powerful this one idea is. It all started with jobs, but this concept of search frictions, it helps us understand any market where finding the right match takes time. We're talking about the housing market, credit markets, even the marriage market. And it really seems like Dale Mortensen practiced what he preached. He shared this great little story in his Nobel biography. His colleagues would tease him, Dale, you spend your life studying how relationships form and break apart, but you've had the same job for 45 years and the same wife for 47. What gives? And his response was just perfect. Both are excellent matches. It's a wonderful little nod to the rewards of a successful search. And that brings us to this final, really deep question. The theory of search frictions teaches us that aiming for zero unemployment is probably impossible, and maybe not even a good idea. Some level of unemployment is just the natural byproduct of people and companies trying to find better matches for each other, which is what keeps an economy healthy and dynamic. So, if the goal isn't just to slam that unemployment number down to zero, what should the real goal be? That's the powerful puzzle Mortensen's work leaves for all of us to think about.